Hey everyone, welcome back to the podcast. Super excited because today I'm going to share with you the 5 lessons I learned from leading a multi-million dollar sales team. So specifically about hiring sales reps, managing sales reps, and managing a team that got to the multi-million dollar revenue per year level in the coaching space. I learned so much, guys. And it's a question I get from my mastermind students all the time because, if you're in the coaching industry, you know that something that is commonly believed is that if you're selling high ticket coaching, so anything above, 2,000 or 3,000 per package, then, people kind of require to get on the phone with you and talk to you. Now, that is quickly changing as anything does. Like there's innovation, there's market sentiment that becomes more comfortable with things over time, right? So people, especially in the United States, they're becoming more comfortable with buying digital programs and how much they cost, right? And putting their credit card in for something that does cost, say, 5,000 or 10,000. So it's not necessarily true anymore that a high ticket program requires a sales call. However, it is definitely easier to close a high ticket sale over the phone, meaning over Zoom or having a phone conversation, because just like anything, people are people and we want to know that there's a person that we're buying from, right? And that we can connect with that person, we can trust that person. So there's like the know, like, trust factor that happens much quicker on a Zoom or a phone call, correct? But that is changing and it's not necessarily true anymore. So that's the good news for you. But one thing that I get questioned all the time was, when can I stop doing sales calls because I don't want to do sales calls anymore because it takes up so much of my time. And I totally understand that because that's why I built a high ticket sales team, is because I did not want to do the sales calls anymore. And the reality is, if you are growing a big business and you have a big vision, you're not going to be able to do all the sales calls unless you find another way. You're not going to be able to do it. So I have outlined 5 main key points that I learned while running my business, my high ticket coaching business, leading a multi-person sales team between closers and setters. And what I kind of like, what I'll end with, so stay till the end, is what I recommend that you do now. Like, what should you do now if you're in this place where, you don't want to do the sales calls anymore, but you want to grow your business? Because that's kind of the point you get to, right? If you want to grow, you are limited at some point with your time and your energy. And so you're not going to be able to grow past a certain point unless you leverage yourself, meaning you hire other people to do what you are doing. And sales is one of those things. Okay. So, all right. You ready for number one? Number one, it is very difficult, guys, to find great sales talent. Now, there are multiple businesses out there now online that will advertise to you and tell you that they can source great talent for you, that they already have great talent in their pipeline, just waiting to work for you and make you lots of money by closing your high ticket program, right? You probably heard the ads. And I've worked with most of those businesses as recruiters. Like, they were recruiting for me and my team because I was always looking for great sales talent that would come work with us and close our high ticket program. The problem is, it took me a little while to realize, after giving them a bunch of money and working with them for a while, is that I realized, most of the people they're sending to me are not experienced salespeople at all. They're actually just people that they advertise to on Instagram or on YouTube saying, hey, instead of going to work at that job that you hate, why don't you become a sales closer for the multi-million dollar business owners like me who are looking for great sales talent? And so they sell them into a program and they plug them into some videos that teach them how to do sales. And then right after that, this recruiter introduces them to me or to you and says, hey, I have this great salesperson for you who's going to be great at closing your deal. And oh my gosh, it took me a little while to realize that most of those people didn't have any experience in sales. And yeah, maybe they were personable, maybe they had some good qualities, maybe they even had some sales experience, but when push came to shove, they weren't able to close. And that was 98% of the people that they introed me to. If you know me, you know I had one star closer with me for multiple years. And so I can't discount that you can't find great talent that way, because you can, because I did. And my guy, he went on to make a lot of money with me and for me. And I'm so grateful, right? Because he led then our sales team after a while and became our manager. So I'm not saying that it can't work, but it is very difficult to make it work, because most of the people that these businesses are going to intro you to are not experienced salespeople. And I'm going to get into in my future number 2, number 3, number 4, what happens when you do bring on someone who's not experienced. All right, number 2, you ready for number 2? Your sales rep, your sales team will never close better than you. I can't tell you how many clients I've had that have said to me, Tara, I'm finding this sales thing really difficult, right? I'm finding this so difficult to close these clients. I just don't want to, kind of like push them at the end. And I just feel like it would be better if I hired someone who is experienced and who knows how to do that, right? Like, let me hire the expert, sales expert. They're going to come in, they're going to be able to do it better. And it just is not true. Your salesperson that works for you and your program, they will never close better than you. The client that you have wants to buy from you. There's that know, like, trust factor that I mentioned in the beginning, right? They need to, or they want to connect with you. When they connect with you, the creator, right? They're going to be a lot more likely to say yes than they are with a representative, that they don't know really knows anything about you and the program. And so they're never going to close better than you. Okay. So you don't want to ever hire because you didn't get great at sales. Unfortunately, you getting great at sales is a prerequisite to having any successful sales team. So keep that in mind. There is no skipping that step. So I'll give you a little story. I have a client in one of my high-level masterminds. And recently, she got to a point where she was closing through our training. She just killed it. And she started closing really well. And she started hitting the $40,000, $50,000, $60,000 a month mark. And she was like, Tara, I don't want to do sales calls anymore. And I'm like, I totally get it. However, I've learned so much over the years, and I advise you raise your prices, thereby probably enrolling less people, but having higher margins and higher revenue. I recommend that you do that and not recommend hiring a closer. And that's from years of experience of running a multi-million-dollar business. I just know, looking back, that in some cases is a better choice depending on the level. And I thought where she's at right now, that would have been a better decision for her to keep growing her revenue without a lot of the risk factors that are going to come in to bring someone on the phone or on the Zoom calls or on the sales calls. Okay. But, she said, I want to go and figure this out. I want to do it. So she hired one of those recruiters, and they send her over a bunch of people, and she hired one of them. And then probably a month later, she came to me and she said, I feel like I'm my 17-year-old daughter right now, because I'm telling you that, you were right. Like, Mom, you were right. I should have listened to you. And I'm like, hey, no shame. Like, I'm just like you. I need to do things for myself too. I need to learn the lesson for myself. I need to try it myself. I need to conquer it or fail myself. So totally fine. But let me walk you through the numbers a little bit. So what she told me was that this person took 25 calls for her. Okay. This person took 25 calls for her, and she did not close not one call. Okay. So if you're at the stage in business where you understand the numbers, I'm going to walk them through them simply for you right now. That is a big loss. Okay. Because if you're running advertising to get most of those costs, then that's going to cost you a lot of money. All right. So let's say on average, it costs $200 to $500 a call to get it on your calendar. Okay. This is some of how the numbers works in a high ticket business. It actually makes sense for you to pay, right, in advertising for those calls to come in, because a certain percentage of them you will close into a high ticket program, and all the numbers works out and you're profitable. Now, 25 calls, no sales, means that cost her on the low end $5,000. to high end about $12,500, right? Sunk costs. That's how much it cost her to put calls on this new closer's calendar. And she did not turn any of it into cash collected or revenue. Okay. So that sucks, right? And on the flip side, my client closes between like 30 to 40% of her calls right now. So she would have made, since her offer is like between $4,000 and $5,000, she would have made between $20,000 to $40,000 on those 25 calls. Pretty much guaranteed, right? Because, push comes to shove, do the numbers. She on the low end is probably going to close. Well, on the low end, she's going to close 20%. So even if she closed 2 or 3 of those calls in a $4,000 to $5,000 offer, that's $10,000 to $15,000. She at least covered her costs of those calls. But unfortunately, it's sunk costs with this closer who obviously doesn't know how to close, right? But the recruiter said, oh my gosh, totally. They're so experienced in closing. Now, not a big deal, right? Kind of part of the deal of hiring people you learn as a CEO is like, no one's going to come in and kind of like make money for you right away. They may be a little slow to learn and pick it up. And there's kind of like a learning curve that you pay for, right? Profit margins might be lower in the beginning because this person needs to get up to speed, and that's okay. So if the closer's learning, there's a little sunk cost. In the end of the day, if they make you hundreds of thousands of dollars, even millions of dollars, it's okay, right? You're willing to pay for it in the beginning. Problem is, most of these people end up being fired because you realize they can't close at all. So it is absolutely sunk costs. You'll never get that money back, right? And this can be detrimental to your business depending on how many closers you go through. Like, it all worked out for us in the end, but I can't tell you how much money I spent on bad closers that were sent to me that should never have been on a sales call for us. All right. So that was number 2. Number 3 is most people think that adding sales reps is just going to make the CEO, you, right, listening, be totally free and have more time. But it actually adds more work to you, not less. Yeah. All right. So I know you want to stop doing calls because of the time and energy suck. Okay. But just think, when you have sales reps, even one, you become the quality control manager. So even if you have someone relatively good, right, you still need to be quality control. You need to listen to their calls and keep coaching them on how to get better, right? This is why you need to be great at it before you bring anyone on, because you're going to be their coach. You're going to teach them how to handle objections for your program, right? Because you're the one who knows it. So you can't ever stop doing that. You always need to be randomly listening to their calls, okay? And then for a long time, you actually need to close alongside them. You can't just like quit doing calls when they come on. You need to keep doing calls alongside them so they don't blame lead quality. This is the number one thing. If you've ever had a sales rep, if they stop closing or if they don't close, they're going to blame the leads. They're going to say, everyone that's coming in doesn't have any money, right? They're going to blame them. And so the only antidote to you dealing with that is saying, well, I mean, I just had a call today and I closed them. So you're saying like, you're getting all the bad leads, but I'm getting good leads? No, it's the quality of the closer, right? It's the quality of the person that's talking to them. So you have to keep closing alongside them. Now, will you take less calls? Sure. But that means you're still taking calls. Then like on your walk, when you're at the gym or when you're with your kids in the car, you're going to need to listen. You're going to need to listen to their calls for quality control. And then not only that, number 3 under that is that you're going to have daily sales meetings with your team, right? Because this is a team environment now. Now you have people working for you and with you and alongside each other. And so you guys all have to meet because you're virtual. And so you have to have a team environment. So just think, more Zoom meetings that you have to lead. So it doesn't actually take work off your plate. It actually adds work to you. Never mind the energetic pressure that it starts to build on you, because these people then say they are doing well and they are making money. Well, they need to keep making that money. And so now you are the one who supports them and their family. You're the one who is the person who they need to make sure that everyone keeps making money, that the leads keep coming in, that the business keeps doing well, that they keep bringing home their $5 or $10 or $15,000 a month, because that's what they need and rely on. And so there's a level of pressure that comes along with that. It's not just you anymore and your family, it's them and their family. All right. Number 4, having closers or having sales reps, while it can somewhat take some work off your plate, but like I just said in number 3, it actually adds a lot of work. It unfortunately makes your margins very slim. So depending on the advertising environment and how much you're spending on advertising, think ad costs plus you're paying a commission. Unless you have a $10,000 plus offer, you'll barely make any profit on your offer, especially if you have payment plans and cash flow is coming in sporadically. Okay. So that's something to think about. If you have a $3,000, $4,000, $5,000 offer, even, very difficult to manage how much it costs you to run advertising to get the leads, plus pay a decent commission, enough that your closer is going to be happy, plus have profits to cover the rest of the expenses for the business and take home pay for you. Okay. So all in all, even though I did it and I actually loved it at the time, but I learned a lot of lessons, I wouldn't do it again. I don't recommend it now. I do think that things are changing in that you don't need to get on calls all the time. Now, will I get on a call anymore? Sure. I'm not selling anything at the moment, which is awesome. But in the future, I might. But you know what I'll get on a call for? A $50,000 offer, a $100,000 offer, someone who wants to work with me privately, someone who wants to, very, very specific things that I'll get on a call for, but I'm not going to get on calls for a $10,000 offer. I do think that we're getting to the point, super exciting, that those can be sold via DM, via email, that when you use your social media right, even podcasts like this, YouTube, people get to know you. They know they want to work with you. They know there's a fee to work with you. And so if you already understand their objections, you already understand their goals, then you're able to sell them over the phone. So here's what I would say, and here's what I tell my clients to do now. Start preparing your social media to create community and friendship and intimacy and connection with your audience so that you can start making more sales without sales calls. Number 2 is raise your price, right? If you're already selling pretty consistently and you're doing pretty well, that means that there's room to raise your price. And so you should have a higher price point. Number 3 is you need to be more selective on who you take on. And that will actually come through when you raise your price. Just some people will fall off. They're not going to be able to do or participate in that offer. And that's a good thing. And number 4 is start practicing selling in the DMs. Start asking people to DM you if they're interested in a certain offer, and have conversations in the DM and tell them how much it is and keep the conversation going that way. Just start getting used to it and start practicing. Am I telling you if you're doing sales calls to stop doing them right now? No. If you're at a 6-figure level, no, please do not, right? Because you're learning so much. You're learning, you're bringing in revenue, bringing cash flow for your business. Keep doing it. Just start practicing and preparing for the future, where if you want to scale, you're not going to be able to continue to do all sales calls. There's going to be a need to be a different way. And you might not want to manage a sales team. Now, does it work for some people? I know, right? A lot of, especially men, who have very big sales teams. And I think that there is a big difference between men and women. At the end of the day, I wasn't made for, managing at that level. Like, there was so much pressure to it. And I'm really, really, really good at other things. And that wasn't life-giving for me, right? And I felt like the Lord was kind of like saying, hey, you don't need to do that to do what you're doing, to kind of go bigger. And so I had to start zooming out, thinking bigger. And if you have the same kind of mentality, then I just wanted to share this with you. You don't need to do it. Keep doing it right now. If you're doing it, practice, become really good. That skill set is never going to go away, and start practicing and preparing for a future where sales will be able to happen more automatically without you doing an hour-long sales call. All right, guys, love you. See you on the next podcast. See you on the next YouTube video. Like, subscribe if you haven't already. Leave us a review. Love it. Talk to you soon.